The floating city of Ardent hovered silently above the golden clouds of Thalos, its towers shimmering like glass under the light of the twin suns. From the outside, it looked calm, peaceful, and steady, but Kale knew better. The city was built on the edge of a planet that refused to be tamed. Every day, engineers and pilots like him worked to keep it from drifting into the violent storms below. Kale adjusted the straps of his gravity stabilizer suit, checking the gauges one last time. The suit allowed humans to leap, glide, and even cling to surfaces in Thalos's unusual atmosphere. Without it, even a small fall could be fatal. His fingers danced over the controls, feeling the familiar hum of energy that flowed through the suit's circuits. He loved that hum. It reminded him that humans could bend the laws of physics, at least for a little while. The comms crackled. "Kale, do you read me?" The voice belonged to Dr. Leora Tan, the city's lead physicist. Her tone was calm but tight, like she was holding back a storm of fear. "The lower platform has shifted. The team can't move safely. You'll need to retrieve us. And fast." Kale swallowed. "Copy that. Stay put, Leora. I'm on my way." He had seen platforms crumble before, watched buildings sway and break apart like sandcastles. But nothing had prepared him for the sight that awaited him now. He peered over the edge of the upper city platform. Below, Leora and two other scientists clung to the edge of a platform that had begun to tilt violently. The clouds roiled beneath them, glowing with electric streaks that hinted at the magnetic storms that lived deeper in Thalos's atmosphere. "Leora," Kale said through the comm, trying to keep his voice steady. A pause, then a laugh, shaky but real. "I'm heavy. You'll need both hands." Kale exhaled. That was her way of joking to hide fear. He hated that she had to joke. Not here. Not now. But there was no time for hesitation. He shifted his stance and activated the stabilizers. The suit hissed as energy coursed through it, and his boots pressed against the platform, giving him the traction he needed. He could feel the wind whipping around him, tugging at his body, testing him. This was no ordinary jump. It wasn't just about reaching the platform, it was about catching her before the tilt became fatal. He leapt. For a moment, the world froze. Kyle felt the pull of gravity from the lower atmosphere, the drag of clouds rushing past him, the faint, electric burn of static in the air. His arms extended instinctively, his eyes locked on Leora. She wasn't panicking. She was calculating, judging distances, aligning herself to meet him. Their hands met, first the tips of fingers, then the firm grip that would hold them both. Kale adjusted the suit mid-air, feeling the tiny thrusters hum to life, pushing them upward, fighting the natural pull of Thalos. Leora laughed again, a sound of relief and disbelief. "I can't believe this is working," she shouted over the wind. Kale grinned. Humans weren't meant to just survive, we're meant to adapt. She rolled her eyes, but there was no bite in her expression, only trust. That trust gave Kale strength. It was strange. Really. Machines could calculate trajectories, predict the shifting platforms, even analyze the storm patterns, but only a human could make this leap, decide when to adjust instinctively, when to trust instincts over numbers. That was what made humans special. That was what made them alive. They floated for a few moments, suspended in the thin boundary between the upper city and the storm below. Kale's heart pounded, but he focused on the task. He adjusted his grip, checking that Leora was secure. Her arms wrapped around him lightly, not panicked, not weak. Just trust. "Okay," she said. "Now what?" "Now we climb," Kale replied. He toggled the suit's boosters, giving them a gentle lift. The city's towers above were like lighthouses, beckoning them to safety. He guided them through the gusts of wind, steering them carefully, using every ounce of human ingenuity and intuition. The lower platform creaked beneath them, a sound that made Kale's teeth clench. If they hadn't jumped when they did, the next tremor would have sent it crashing into the clouds below. "You know," Leora said, her voice softer now, almost teasing. "I thought gravity was supposed to be constant. I didn't think humans could bend it like this." Kale laughed. "We don't. Not really. But we can learn to ride it. We've done worse." Leora. "Remember the Jupiter mission?" She nodded, remembering. They had both been on that expedition years ago, surviving the crushing pressure and fierce winds of the gas giant's storms. Humans had adapted then. Humans had survived then. And humans would survive here. The platform below gave another groan, tilting dangerously. Kyle focused all his energy on their ascent, feeling the hum of the suit's thrusters, the wind against his helmet, the pull of Thalos's gravity. He adjusted their angle, used small pulses of energy to keep them aligned, to make sure Leora didn't slip. Above, the city's edge grew closer. Safety was close, but the danger wasn't gone. He had to make this precise. One wrong move, and they would either crash into the platform or drift into the storm clouds. "Almost there," he murmured, more to himself than to her. "Just a little more." More murmured, "Just a little more." Leora squeezed his arm, a tiny anchor that reminded him they weren't alone. They had each other, and that was everything. Finally, the upper platform loomed above them. KL increased the booster's output just slightly and guided their combined weight to the edge. With a gentle push, they landed safely, knees buckling under the sudden stop. Leora laughed, breathless, shaking her head. "I can't believe you caught me." "You said I had you," Kale replied with a grin. "And I do." For a moment, they just sat there, catching their breath, letting the hum of the city and the distant roar of the storm sink into them. Around them, the floating city was alive, with lights, engines, and the constant motion of humans working to survive in a world that didn't forgive weakness. Leora looked at him, her eyes wide with admiration. "Humans really are something else," she said quietly. "I don't think machines could have done this." Kale shook his head. "Machines help us, but they don't replace us. Humans can think, adapt, and take risks that machines never will. That's why we survive. That's why we explore. That's why we leap." Leora smiled, leaning back slightly. "Yes," Kale said, smiling back. "Sometimes we do." For the first time in hours, the tension melted. They had survived the fall, the storm, and the unstable platform. But both knew that this was just the beginning. The storms of Thalos were relentless, and the floating city was full of challenges. They would need every bit of human ingenuity, courage, and trust to face what came next. But for now, they had each other, and that was enough. Kyle and Leora lay on the edge of the upper platform, catching their breath as the wind calmed around them. The twin suns of Thalos reflected off the glassy towers, painting the city in warm shades of orange and gold. For a moment, it felt peaceful, almost ordinary. But KL knew better. The lower platforms were unstable, and the storms below would not forgive a single mistake. "Are you okay?" KL asked, brushing dust and small debris from his suit. Leora nodded, still smiling despite the adrenaline. "Better than okay. You actually caught me." She laughed softly, the sound like music against the hum of the city. "I almost didn't believe it would work." KL grinned. "Humans don't do impossible. We just figure it out." He paused, scanning the horizon. "But the platform is still in trouble. We need to secure the team and get everyone to safety." Leora's smile faded slightly, replaced by her familiar determination. "You're right. If we don't stabilize the lower platform, the whole structure could collapse into the storm clouds. And those storms aren't forgiving." Kale stood, offering her a hand to help her up. She took it without hesitation, and together, they moved toward the edge of the platform to assess the situation. Below them, the tilted platform groaned under its own weight. Two other scientists clung to its edge, their safety harnesses barely holding against the shifting metal. "Hang on," Kale called to them. "We're coming down to get you." One of the scientists, a young man named Darren, looked up, his face pale. "Is it safe?" Kale gave him a reassuring nod. "Safe enough, but we need to move quickly." Leora checked the readings on her portable sensor. The platform's center of mass is off by 20%. If we add any more weight unevenly, it could tip completely. We need to distribute the load carefully. Kale's brow furrowed. Then we do it one at a time. We can't risk all of us going at once. Darren swallowed and nodded. "I trust you." Kale activated his suit's boosters and carefully descended toward the unstable platform. Leora followed, using her own suit to hover just above him. As they reached the platform, Kale extended his hands to Darren first. Darren hesitated only a moment before letting go of the edge. Kale held him securely, guiding him upward. Leora's sensors kept constant track of the platform's balance, giving Kale real-time adjustments. Together, they lifted Darren safely to the upper platform. One by one, they brought the remaining scientists up. Each rescue required precise timing, small bursts of energy from the suits, and careful coordination. It was exhausting work, but the humans thrived on challenges that machines could not understand. Once everyone was safe, Leora checked the readings again. "The lower platform is stable enough for now, but we need engineers to secure it properly. Otherwise, it could shift again at any moment." Kale nodded. "I'll call the team. For now, let's move to a safer zone." They began walking along the network of upper platforms, careful to avoid any sections weakened by Thalos's unpredictable winds. The city seemed alive with motion, hovercrafts gliding between towers, maintenance drones floating along magnetic rails, and humans moving with purpose. Kale felt a deep pride. Machines were helpful, yes, but it was human skill, courage, and adaptability that made the city thrive. Leora glanced at him. "You know, Kale, this is what I love about humans. We don't give up, even when the odds are stacked against us. We think, we adapt, we risk, and somehow, we survive." Kale smiled, watching her closely. "That's the truth. It's not luck. It's us. Humans are remarkable because we don't just rely on calculations or instructions. We rely on each other." A sudden gust of wind swept across the platform, forcing them to steady themselves. Kale held Leora's hand instinctively, keeping her grounded. "Careful," he warned. "The atmosphere here isn't as stable as it looks." She nodded, gripping his hand. "I'm learning to trust instincts over instruments. Sometimes, the numbers can't predict everything." They reached a wide observation platform overlooking the city. From here, Kyle could see the full scope of Thalos's beauty and its danger. The lower platforms stretched into the glowing clouds, some shifting like liquid under the magnetic storm currents. It was mesmerizing, but it reminded him that safety was temporary. Kale and Leora took a moment to rest, watching the clouds swirl beneath them. "You know," Leora said quietly, "when I first came here, I thought humans were fragile. I thought machines would always be stronger, faster, smarter. But I was wrong. Humans, we're not perfect. But we adapt. We find solutions where there seem to be none. And sometimes," she smiled faintly, "we even leap from impossible heights and catch each other." Kale laughed softly. "Exactly. That's what makes us special. Not our strength, not our machines. Our determination and trust in each other." The comms crackled suddenly. It was the city's control center. "Kale, Leora, we've detected unusual magnetic activity in the lower atmosphere. The storms are forming faster than predicted. You'll need to secure the upper platforms as well. Kale's jaw tightened. Understood. Leora, we need to move fast. The upper platforms aren't as stable as the city likes to think. She nodded, already running calculations in her mind. I can guide you. If we work together, we can manage the load and reinforce the structures before the storm worsens. They moved quickly. Kale leading with his experience as a pilot and engineer, Leora guiding with her scientific knowledge. Together, they coordinated small drones to lift unstable panels, reinforced magnetic rails, and checked every section for weaknesses. The teamwork was seamless human instinct complemented by human intelligence, a combination machines could not replicate fully. As they worked, Kale couldn't help but marvel at the sight. Humans were scattered across the platforms, moving with precision and courage. Drones carried tools, sensors scanned for weaknesses, and yet, it was human judgment that dictated every crucial decision. Every jump, every calculation, every quick adjustment was proof of human resilience. Hours passed, and the storm below grew more intense, clouds churning with electric energy. The platforms trembled occasionally, but Kale and Leora, along with their team, managed to stabilize the upper city. Each task tested their patience, coordination, and creativity. But every problem had a solution. Humans just had to find it. Finally, they stepped back, breathing heavily, but satisfied. The platforms held. The city was secure for now. And the team had survived another encounter with Thalos's unpredictable atmosphere. Leora turned to Kale, her eyes reflecting both exhaustion and admiration. We did it. The city is safe. For now. Kale smiled, though his mind already raced ahead. It's never really safe. But humans, we make it work. That's what counts. Everyone. Two. She nodded. And, somehow, we make it look easy. Kyle laughed softly. Easy? Maybe to watch. Hard? Always. But that's the beauty of it. Humans don't just survive, we adapt. We leap when others wouldn't. And we always catch each other. Leora smiled faintly. And sometimes, we get caught. In more ways than one. Kale raised an eyebrow. Explain. She shrugged, looking at the horizon where the golden clouds met the city's towers. Caught in the thrill of it. Caught in the danger. Caught in the realization that we're capable of more than we think. Kale considered this quietly. It was true. Humans had come far. Beyond the comfort of gravity-bound planets. Beyond the limits of ordinary survival. And yet, each leap, each challenge, each act of trust reminded him why humans were remarkable. As the twin suns dipped lower, casting long shadows across the platforms, Kale and Leora looked at each other. They had faced impossible odds, survived the storms, and secured the city. But both knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges. Thalos would continue to test them, just as it always had. And yet, for the first time that day, Kale felt a quiet certainty. Humans would face it, together, because humans weren't just survivors. They were creators, explorers, and problem solvers. They were leapers, and they always caught each other. With that thought, Kale and Leora walked toward the city's control center, ready for whatever the floating city and Thalos would throw at them next. The twin suns of Thalos had dipped below the horizon, leaving the floating city of Ardent bathed in the soft glow of artificial lights. The storm clouds below churned with electric energy, casting a surreal silver-blue glow across the upper platforms. Kale stood on the tallest tower, watching the dance of the clouds, feeling both awe and unease. The storms had been relentless today, testing every pilot, engineer, and scientist in the city. But Kale knew the real challenge was just beginning. Leora hovered beside him, her sensors displaying constant updates. "The lower platforms are holding," she said, voice calm, but tinged with concern. "But the next magnetic surge is predicted to be stronger. If we don't find a way to redirect it, parts of the city could be destabilized." Kale nodded, scanning the horizon. The floating city wasn't just a collection of towers, it was a network of energy conduits, magnetic anchors, and hovering platforms, all balanced delicately above the stormy clouds. One wrong adjustment could send entire sections tilting into the tempest below. "We'll need to move quickly," Kale said. Leora smiled faintly. "Good thing humans are clever," Kale chuckled. "Clever, stubborn, and brave. That's us." They began navigating toward the sector where the next surge was expected. Unlike the previous reinforcement tasks, this one required more than placing anchors or stabilizers. They had to reroute energy flows through the city's magnetic conduits to create a buffer, a protective shield against the surge. Machines could handle calculations, but the actual work required human judgment, timing, and coordination. As they reached the first conduit, Kale examined the glowing energy streams. The magnetic fields pulsed unpredictably, shifting faster than normal. He extended his hand, carefully adjusting the conduits with precise movements, while Leora monitored the changes and offered corrections. "This is tricky," she said. "If the alignment is off by even a few degrees, the surge could push through and destabilize the whole sector." Kale's eyes narrowed. "Then we do it the human way. Step by step, adjustment by adjustment. We adapt to the changes as they happen." They worked in tandem, Kale making physical adjustments, while Leora directed the energy flows through her sensor network. Each correction required split-second timing, a mixture of instinct, experience, and intuition. At one point, a sudden gust from the storm below sent Kale sliding on the conduit's surface. Instinctively, he grabbed a nearby support cable, stabilizing himself. Leora's sensors alerted her immediately. "Careful, the conduit's edge is weakening." Kale adjusted his stance, steadying both himself and the conduit. "Got it. Humans adapt. That's what we do." Hours passed, each moment a careful dance with the storm. Kale and Leora moved across conduits, platforms, and energy nodes, rerouting power and securing weak points. The storm tested them at every turn. But humans had a unique advantage. They could improvise. Machines followed instructions, but humans could create solutions. When instructions failed, "You know," Leora said quietly, as she monitored a particularly unstable node, "I used to think humans were fragile. I thought we needed machines for everything. But watching us work together, I see now that humans are incredible." Kale smiled, sweat dripping down his forehead. "We've always been incredible. We just don't always see it in ourselves. We leap, we catch, we adapt, and somehow, we succeed." Suddenly, a surge of magnetic energy arced across the city. The conduits glowed brighter, and the platforms beneath them trembled. Kale's suit hummed loudly as he activated additional stabilizers, adjusting their trajectory mid-air to compensate for the unexpected force. "Leora," he shouted. "We need to redirect the surge now." She focused, recalculating pathways for the energy flow. "On it." Diverting to the secondary conduits. Now. The city shuddered as energy coursed through the newly aligned paths. Sparks danced along the magnetic rails, but the surge was contained. Kale and Leora landed on a stable platform, breathing heavily. The storm had tested them, but once again, humans had prevailed. "Humans always find a way," Kale said, laughing softly despite the tension. Leora nodded, smiling through her exhaustion. "We adapt. We think. We trust each other. That's what makes us strong." But the challenge was far from over. As they moved toward the next section, Kale noticed that a lower platform was beginning to tilt again. The magnetic anchors were straining under the storm's pressure. "We'll need to secure that platform before the next surge," he said. "Can you calculate the fastest way to stabilize it?" Leora's fingers danced over her sensors. "Yes, but it'll require precise coordination. One wrong move, and the platform could collapse." Kale grinned. "Humans love impossible odds. Let's do it." They leapt from the upper platform, hovering carefully above the tilting lower structure. Kale extended his hands toward the platform's edge, attaching additional stabilizers, while Leora guided him with real-time adjustments. Every pulse of energy from the storm forced them to improvise, to adapt faster than they ever had before. "You're amazing," Leora said as Kale corrected a misaligned stabilizer. "Machines could never do this." Kale shook his head. "It's not me. It's humans. We improvise. We adapt. We leap when no one else would. And we always catch each other." The platform finally stabilized, and the storm seemed to relent slightly. The team of scientists they had saved earlier emerged from nearby safe zones, looking at Kale and Leora with awe. "You two," one of them whispered. Kale smiled. "Humans adapt. Humans survive. Humans leap." The scientists laughed, relieved and inspired. In that moment, Kale realized something profound. Humans were more than clever calculations and strong suits. They were capable of courage, ingenuity, and trust. That combination was what allowed them to face impossible situations and emerge victorious. Leora turned to Kale. "You know, this is why I came here. Not just to study Thalos, but to see what humans can really do. Machines help us, but humans make the impossible happen." Kale nodded. "Exactly. And the best part is, we do it together." As the storm clouds slowly began to shift and the city's lights reflected on the stabilized platforms, Kale and Leora allowed themselves a brief moment of rest. The adrenaline was fading, replaced by a deep sense of accomplishment. They had faced one of Thalos's most challenging magnetic surges and come through stronger than ever. Kale looked at the horizon, where the first faint glow of dawn was appearing. "Tomorrow will bring more storms, but humans will face them. Together." Leora smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "And somehow, we'll leap, catch, and adapt. Like we always do." The city of Ardent shimmered around them, a testament to human ingenuity and determination. Floating above the storm, Kale realized that no matter how fierce the challenge, humans were capable of remarkable things. They could survive, adapt, and inspire hope in ways machines never could. For Kyle, the truth was clear. Humans weren't just survivors. They were explorers, problem solvers, and leapers into the unknown. And as long as they trusted each other, there was nothing they couldn't overcome. He glanced at Leora, and she met his gaze with the same quiet understanding. They had faced the storm, defied danger, and protected the city together. And this was only the beginning. Humans would continue to adapt, continue to leap, and continue to catch each other, no matter how impossible the challenges seemed. And for Kale, that was enough. The storm had passed. Slowly, the clouds that had roared and flashed with electric fury began to settle into calm, shimmering layers of silver and gold. The floating city of Ardent, though battered and trembling under the weight of Thalos's storms, had survived. Its towers stood tall, bridges aligned, and platforms stabilized, a testament to the determination, skill, and courage of the humans who called it home. Kale stood on the edge of the highest observation platform, gazing at the peaceful city. The twin suns were just rising, casting long streaks of light over the towers and illuminating the swirling clouds below. For the first time in days, Kale felt a quiet calm. Leora joined him, her sensors and tablet tucked under her arm, still buzzing with post-storm readings. "The city is safe," she said, her voice a mix of relief and pride. "All the platforms have held. The conduits are stable. And the energy rerouting worked perfectly." Kale smiled faintly. "Not perfectly," he said. "It worked because humans adapted. Machines calculated, but humans acted, improvised, and caught each other when it mattered." Leora laughed softly. "I've never been more convinced. Humans, we're extraordinary." Kale looked at her, thinking back to the moments when they had leapt across unstable platforms, balanced on trembling bridges, and rerouted energy flows in real time. Each challenge had been daunting, impossible even, but together, they had succeeded. Each risk had been a test of trust, ingenuity, and courage. And humans had passed. Below, the scientists who had been rescued earlier were now helping other teams reinforce remaining structures, their movements efficient and confident. The city hummed with life, a constant reminder that humans could rise to any challenge when they worked together. KL felt a swell of pride. He had always known humans were capable of remarkable things, but seeing it in action, watching them overcome danger, adapt to the unknown, and protect each other, it was humbling. Leora placed her hand lightly on his arm. "Kale, do you realize what we've just done? The storm was stronger than predicted. We stabilized platforms, rerouted energy flows, and saved the city. Humans alone made this possible." Kale nodded. "Not alone," he said. "Together. Humans always do better when we work together. That's what makes us unstoppable." They walked along the upper platform, looking down at the city's lower levels. The repaired sections of the city glimmered under the early sunlight, platforms perfectly aligned, bridges steady, and energy nodes humming safely. Drones moved systematically, making final checks, but it was clear that humans had been the ones to solve the real problems. Machines had assisted, but humans had led. As they walked, Kale recalled the first moment he had leapt to catch Leora. She had joked about being heavy, and yet, he had caught her. That leap had not just been physical, it had been symbolic. Humans could leap into the unknown, face danger, and rely on each other. That trust and courage had carried them through the storm, and it had proven the very essence of humanity. Bravery, ingenuity, and heart. "Kale," Leora said, breaking his thoughts. "Do you ever think about why humans are like this? Why we adapt, survive, and even thrive in impossible situations?" Kale smiled faintly. "Because we have to. Nature, storms, challenges, they don't wait for us to be ready. Humans survive because we try, we think, and we leap. And we catch each other when it counts." Leora nodded, thoughtful. "I see that now. Machines calculate probabilities. They follow rules. Humans break rules, bend reality, and create solutions out of nothing. That's why we explore, survive, and build amazing things." Kale's eyes traced the city's silhouette against the lightening sky. "We're explorers at heart. Even when the odds are against us, we find a way. That's human nature. And that's why no storm, no obstacle, can truly stop us." The wind carried a gentle warmth, and Kale noticed how the light reflected on the metallic surfaces of the city, giving everything a golden glow. He felt hopeful. For all its dangers, Thalos was beautiful, and humans were capable of thriving here. Not just surviving. They had the courage, intelligence, and adaptability to turn impossible odds into victories. A soft voice came over the comms. It was the city control center. "Kale, Leora, the city's systems are fully operational. All platforms are stable. Thanks to your efforts, no casualties have been reported, and emergency repairs are complete. The citizens are safe." Kale exhaled slowly. "Good work," he said. Then he turned to Leora. "See? Humans always find a way." She smiled, her eyes bright with admiration. Not just survive, we thrive. And it's not just about solving problems. It's about courage, trust, and teamwork. That's what makes us extraordinary. Kale nodded. And the best part? Humans always catch each other. No matter how heavy, no matter how impossible the challenge. Leora laughed softly. Even when we joke about being heavy? Even then, Kale said, smiling. They walked to the city's central observation deck, overlooking the calm after the storm. Citizens, scientists, engineers, and pilots moved through the city with renewed purpose. Drones and automated systems performed their routines, but the human touch was everywhere. Every decision, every adjustment, every leap and catch had been made by humans. Leora turned to KL, her expression thoughtful. You know, this city, it's proof of what humans can do. Not just survive Thalos, but master it. Adapt, create, and protect each other. I think this is what makes humanity special. Kale looked at her, feeling a deep sense of connection. It's not just this city, he said. It's everywhere humans go. On any planet, in any storm, facing any impossible challenge, we adapt, we leap, we catch each other. That's why we survive, and that's why we thrive. The twin suns broke fully over the horizon, casting long shadows across the platforms. The storm clouds below shimmered faintly, a reminder of the power of Thalos. But above them, the city stood resilient, a shining example of human ingenuity and determination. KL and Leora stood side by side, watching the city wake. Children played on safe platforms, citizens moved with confidence, and drones hummed softly as they assisted the humans. It was a quiet moment. But for Kale, it was filled with pride. Every leap, every adjustment, every act of trust had led to this: a city safe, a team intact, and humans standing tall against impossible odds. Leora placed her hand on Kale's shoulder. Do you realize what we've proven today? Humans aren't just survivors. We're creators, explorers, problem solvers, and leapers into the unknown. Kale nodded. Exactly. And as long as we trust each other, we can face anything. No storm, no challenge, no unknown can stop us. Humans will always adapt. Humans will always rise. Humans will always catch each other. They watched the city in silence, letting the warmth of the twin suns and the quiet hum of life around them sink in. For Kale, it was the perfect end to a long, exhausting, and exhilarating day. They had faced danger, uncertainty, and impossible odds, and they had emerged stronger. Because that was what humans did. They leapt when others hesitated. They adapted when machines could not. They trusted each other when the odds were against them. And no matter what, humans always caught each other. Kale smiled faintly, looking at Leora. Tomorrow, the storm may come again. But we'll be ready. Because humans don't just survive storms, we master them. We thrive in them. And we leap when others won't. Leora smiled back, her eyes bright with determination. Then, let's make sure tomorrow is even better. Together, they turned back toward the city, walking along the platforms as the first citizens began their day. The floating city of Ardent had survived Thalos's fury, but more importantly, it had shown the world and themselves what humans were truly capable of. And above it all, KL knew one truth that had guided every leap, every adjustment, and every act of courage. Humans weren't just survivors. Humans were extraordinary. Humans leapt into the impossible. Humans adapted, created, and thrived. And humans always caught each other. The sun rose fully over Thalos, casting a golden light across the city. And for Kale and Leora, and every human in Ardent, It was a new beginning. A beginning where anything was possible. Because humans were capable of the impossible.